And this mic is all yours.
A thankful Thursday, which is every Thursday, by the way. The thankful day every day. The TH of thankful and the TH of Thursday, they go together. So thankful Thursday to you, each and every only one of us. Glad to be here. Sharon in the room, in the Zoom room with me are, I saw Regis and Dove and Lori and Taylor and, of course, Lynn. I thought, and Carrie, the lighthouse man is here. Uh, and hi, everyone. In the Zoom room, I don't even, in the Pal Talk room, I don't have Pal Talk open, so I don't even know. In the Pal Talk room are Christopher and Grismer as well. And hello, 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 hello. Uh, it's been a kind of a mellow morning. I've been, I kept waking up thinking about today's um, conversation. I'm trusting. I wanted to continue with prayer. We were there, we started there on Monday, and there was still so much to do. I wanted to continue. Um, to to football fans, I want you to know that regardless of what team does what, and I will be the Super Bowl party. For me, it's always go Eagles. There it is, Philadelphia Eagles. My T-shirt. Lovable will have on his Eagles jersey. He owns a jersey. I don't. Um, we will be we will be eagle down on Sunday at the Super Bowl party that we are invited to. Well, that I'm invited to. He's not invited. Anyway, um, and I had to say that one for Regis, who's listening now or he'll listen later, however that goes. Anyway, ah, we are yay, Sharon, love the Eagles. Oh, come on, girl. That's right. That's right. Um, um, we have been talking about we've been talking A Course in Miracles meets science of mind, and as a reminder every week that we are to mind our mind our mind, that we are um, that Dr. Holmes reminds us that to learn how to think is to learn how to live. I want to put that slide on the screen. I like putting that slide on the screen. To learn how to think is to learn how to live. From Dr. Ernest Holmes from the Science of Mind text, and from the course, an untrained mind can accomplish nothing. That this, like any other mental science, is a course in mind training, that all learning involves attention and study at some level. Key, key, key. So we were talking about we started out talking about we were at miracle principle number 11 about prayer, and Dr. Holmes writes that, well, so we were talking about the miracle principle. The miracle principle is from the course that prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. And I want to focus in on those parts about the prayer itself, communication, prayer as a form, as a means of communication. And on page 28 of the Science of Mind text, Ernest Holmes writes that the answer to prayer is in the prayer. Which, and at first when I read that, I'm like, I don't understand that. And it kind of makes sense. The thing that I'm praying about, because I don't pray for anything, there's no reason for us to pray for anything. The Course tells us that being and having are the same. So you're not, I don't pray to have something that I know is already there. I am praying to be aligned with it, to become aware of it, to know that the answer is that, as workbook lesson 70 says, that there are no problems, that the answer is already arrived, that the problem, if you will, has already been solved. So I'm not praying for anything. I'm not praying for you. I'm not praying for myself. I'm not praying for the world. I'm not praying for anything. I'm praying about it. And besides, anything outside is my perception of it anyway. And when I said the world, it came to me, that there's no point in lamenting the world because the world is incapable of change, but there's a point in changing my mind about the world, and then everything changes. Take off my blue tinted glasses and the world ceases to be blue. So the answer to prayer, Dr. Holmes writes, is in the prayer. But what is prayer, he asks? A prayer is a movement of thought within the mind of the one praying along a definite line of meditation that is for a specific purpose. I am praying that my mind, I'm praying to see it differently. I am praying that for me to get a handle on it. If someone is living a lifestyle that I don't approve of, right? Because it's a lifestyle that I don't approve of. It's not for me to pray that they change their lifestyle. No, 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 no. That in the correction of error in chapter 9, third section, talks about the correction of error, which the ego is always wanting to correct somebody else, to make somebody else better, to change someone else. However, it's not for me to pray that their lifestyle changes. It's for me to be able to accept their lifestyle. And in so doing, it makes it easier to accept them. And in so doing, it makes it easier to have conversation, if possible, to be able to communicate with them, because it's all mind. Communicate with them in a way, be it outright or through the prayer itself. You know, um, Ernest Holmes called it deep calling unto deep, deep calling unto deep, uh, because all minds are joined, as we're reminded over and over again in the course, because all minds are joined, that my prayer is to see that person as whole, to see their life in a way for their highest and their best. I don't get to decide and choose it should be this way or it should be that way, or they shouldn't be doing this, they shouldn't be doing that, for their highest and best, because I don't know if that lifestyle, whatever it happens to be, is not the one that is for their highest and best. If workbook lesson 24 teaches from the course, it says that um, we don't perceive our own best interests. And we're told in that lesson that everything is for our best interest. Everything is for our best interest. It is all for our best. Workbook lesson 135 reminds us, that everything has been gently planned by one whose only purposes are good, who only means us well. Life isn't trying to hurt us. Life isn't trying to hurt us. We think that things are hurting us. Oh, that shouldn't be that way. Or why does it have to be that way? And it's those illusions that take us to those places that actually cause the pain. It's not the thing itself that causes the pain. It's our thoughts about the thing itself. Well, back to prayer. I can go on and on about that. Prayer is a movement of thought. The course says a means of communication within the mind of the one praying along a definite line of communication that is for a specific purpose. And this passage, this here, to the extent that we grasp at it, we are it. We're talking about that communication. We were talking about that on Monday, about that communication with the Creator, that the talks about the habit of engaging with God. To the extent that we grasp at it, we are it. I recognize my oneness with the Creator. I am always connected, but to the extent that I grasp it, to the extent that I become aware of it, to the extent that I make myself open to it, to the extent that I'm engaging with it, I am it. It becomes, it said, we talk about, living in God, moving in God, having our being in God. And in the Science of Mind text, it says, it uses the word mind with a capital M. Same thing, because God is the mind, capital M, with which I think. It's the same thing. To the extent that I grasp at it, I am it. For those that are in here listening, at any point in time, anything come to mind that you'd want to add to this, I would appreciate it because I'm going all the way to 11 o'clock and I don't want to talk all the way through. I don't. So let's see what's going on here. Dr. Holmes writes, using that same from that same quote, it says, since some people have been healed through prayer while others have not, and I believe he's talking about physical healing, but we know, and it says throughout um, all the mental sciences, which is why it's called a mental science in the first place, that it's not the body that we're talking about healing, it's the mind. And a lot of times bodies heal because, the symptoms that came into the body as a result of whatever was going on in the mind, as the mind changes, the body changes as well. So he brings up this point. Since some people have been healed through prayer while others have not, the answer is not that people, rather, the answer is not that God has responded to some and not to others, but that some have responded to God more than others. And this is where, again, the Course talks about the habit of engaging. I'm going to pull that one up. That's one of my favorites. And I say it all the time. I had the opportunity to have lunch with uh, an ACIM member from a different study group, and um, and she says, "Yeah, and you've memorized. You have so many parts of the Course memorized." I said, "Yeah, but if you listen to me, you'll find out that I'm always quoting the same thing. I'm always quoting the same parts. It's always the same parts because those parts are the parts that stand out for me. Those parts are the parts that I need, that I personally need to keep me going. That word engage, when I don't know where I heard it. It may have been in one of the ACIM rooms. I don't know. When you talk about when you're engaged to someone, when in an intimate relationship and you're engaged to someone, you're attached to them, you're close to them, you're always thinking about them. You're always looking for ways to make the relationship better, to grow closer. Well, that's that engagement. That engagement is what we're talking about here. Um, so I'm going to take this out of here and put this quote from the Course in here. The habit of engaging with God, the habit of engaging with God and his creations is easily made if you actively refuse to let your mind slip away. If you actively refuse to let your mind slip away. And the problem isn't that uh, that we can't we can't concentrate. The problem, because therein comes the sleep of forgetfulness. The problem is the belief that nobody's worth the effort. Our belief that we're not worth the effort, or that someone else is not worth the effort. We think that because we pray about someone, you know, or if we study something that one time, I opened the book and I read something that one time. I read today's lesson, and then I moved on with the rest of my day, and I didn't give it any more thought, and I kept on going. And then somebody said, "Well, what's today's lesson?" Oh, you know what? I don't even remember. Well, even though the lesson, had given a had given an instruction to to say it more than once, every 10 minutes, every half hour, every 15 minutes, whatever. And that's not studying. That's not engaging. That's not engaging. And likewise with prayer, that's not engaging. To engage is tether, to tether, to become attached, connected to it. The habit of engaging with God. So some have responded to God. Some have responded to God more than others. I think that's key. Some have responded to God more than others. They remember their closeness, they remember their connection, they remember their oneness rather than just, put it out there and let it go. And I mean every prayer is complete in itself. Now don't get me wrong, but it's just like you go to a physician and he prescribes a medication and the bottle says take one twice a day for 10 days. So there's 20 pills in the bottle, let's say. And you're diligently first 3, 4 days doing what was prescribed. You were engaging, you were engaging, you were engaging. And then you decide, oh, I feel better. I'll stop now. It's about how do we respond? How do we respond to what that physician has the instruction that that physician has given us, or that bottle of medication has given us? We have to continue, stay with, engage. Emmett Fox says, change your mind and keep it changed. We have to continue, stay involved, engage, engage, keep responding to God as God's responding to you. If I'm feeling better after the 4th day, I'm going to feel even better after the 10th day because the instructions that were given to me was to take that medication two times a day for 10 days. I'm engaging, I'm engaging, I'm engaging. But even as the quote from the Course says, the problem isn't one of concentration. The problem isn't one of not being able to. It's the belief that I'm not worth it. I forget that I am as God created me. I forget that I am spirit. I forget that my worth is established by God. So even my prayers, I don't really believe them myself. Oh, I'll say, oh God, I'm realizing that, God, recognizing that God and I are one, and that God is all there is, and the one power and the one presence. And oh, I can sit here and spew off words left and right, but it becomes no different than when I was in elementary school, and elementary school reciting, we called it the Our Father, and we call the Lord's Prayer, the Hail Mary, or the Act of Contrition, or the what's the other one, the Confiteor. I confess to Almighty God, to blessed Mary, ever Virgin, to blessed Michael the Archangel, to blessed John the Baptist, to the holy apostles Peter and Paul, and to all the saints. For I have sinned exceedingly in thought, word, and deed, through my fault, through my fault, through my most grievous fault. Therefore I beseech. Oh my God! So it's you see, and it's in there. It's in there. It was memorized, and I've just heard the words through my fault. This was a prayer that we used to pray, not all the time, the Confiteor that just popped into my head, but through my fault. How can I feel connected to God if I am told or taught that God is perfect, that I'm not, that I'm a wretch, that I'm a sinner, that needs to be saved, that I am like a filthy rag, through my fault, through my fault, through my most grievous fault? Or because the first people on earth, according to the story, because I don't necessarily believe that one either, um, kind of hard to believe if let science give you information. Um, but that the first people, they did something, and because they did something, I'm now responsible for that. Now I understand when they say the sins of the father fall on the son, but that it comes down. But that means that, say, my great grandparents, they believed such and such a way, and they passed that belief down to my great grandparents, who beliefs were taught that, and they learned such a way, which then taught to my grandparents, that such a way, that was then taught to my parents to such a way, and I'm following in those footsteps. That's socialization. What we call the sins of the father falling on the son. It's just that the same thing being taught. That's like the simple joke of uh the 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 person who goes to their mother to find out, hey mom, how come whenever you cook a roast, you always cut off both ends of it? And she says, oh well, that's because that's the way my mother taught me. So she goes to her grandmother and she asks her, so grandma, um, mom told me that you taught her to always cut off the ends of the roast before you cook it. Why is that? She says, oh, because that's what my mother taught me. And so she goes to her great grandmother and she says, great grandmommy, I have a question. She says, mommy told me that grandmom taught her to always cut the ends off of a roast before she cooks it. And I went to grandmom and asked her, and she said that she got it from you. And so tell me, why do you always cut the ends off the roast before you cook it? Does it make it taste better? She says, oh no. It's just at that time, the only size pan we had was just big enough that I had to cut the ends off. It had nothing at all to do with the way the roast was supposed to be cooked. It was passed down from one to another to another. The habit of engaging with God prevents us from engaging to that extent with everything outside of us. The habit of engaging with God is within. The habit of engaging with God would make us look at that pan and say, oh, this pan is big enough. I don't have to cut the ends off. I don't have to do it the way mommy did it. I don't have to do it the way grandmommy did it. I don't have to do it the way great grandmommy did it. I don't have to do it the way anyone else did it. I don't have to follow in anyone's footsteps. The sins of the father do not have to fall on the son. The sins of the mother do not have to fall on the daughter. The sins of the past, we're taught that that principle is not bound by precedent, and principle is what's unchanging. Principle is eternal. Some have responded to God more than others. We are all God informed. We are all of that. But do we pay attention to it? Or do we spend our time talking about all the things that have happened and are happening and what's going on outside and what used to happen and how my mother treated me and how my teachers treated me? What is going on? We don't want the story to stop. We don't want to stop. So we keep on talking about it. If we want that past stuff to stop, we need to stop talking about it. Some have responded to God more than others. They keep on and keep on talking with God, the habit of engaging with God. We were in the section called Laws Governing Prayer in chapter 8 of the Science of Mind text. And this is as far as we had gotten up to this point. And I'm reading from chapter 8, the section called Laws Governing Prayer in the chapter 9 called Prayer. It's at chapter 8, it's chapter 9 of prayer. God manifests himself through all individuals. No two people are alike. Each has a unique place in the universe of capital M, mind. Each lives in mind. Each contacts it through his own mentality in an individual way, drawing from it a unique expression of its divine nature, period. If one makes himself receptive to the idea of love, he becomes lovable. To the degree that he embodies love, he is love. So people who love are loved. And that's why Regis says, everybody loves Regis. And Zulma says, everyone loves Regis. Oh, because I took that one on. That was perfect. Everyone loves Regis. And why I named my dog Lovable. It wasn't intentional, but I named my dog Lovable. And I mean, people will ask me, how's Lovable? They won't even ask me how I'm doing. How's Lovable? What's Lovable doing? Where is he? I mean, Lovable has become part of other people's worlds because that same energy of love in just his name, it makes him receptive and sweet and warm, and people are feeling that energy through me, through him, to the degree that he embodies love. He is love. If one makes himself, I'm going back to that sentence, if one makes himself receptive to the idea of love, he becomes lovable. To the degree that he embodies love, he is love. So people who love are loved. Now, the Course teaches us to teach only love. I wish I put that in here, and maybe I will. Yeah, I will. Um, Teach only love, for that is what you are. And that's out of chapter 6 somewhere, and I'll find exactly where later. Uh, teach only love, for that is what you are. You can't that's no that's can't make that any clearer than that. If one makes himself receptive to the idea of love, now we're talking about the laws governing prayer here. If one makes himself receptive to the idea of love, he becomes lovable. To the degree that he embodies love, he is love. So people who love are loved. That means we're extending, we're extending, we're extending. And if we're calling for love, oftentimes we get that too. If I'm coming at you with a shield, then you may be coming at me with a knife. I'm calling for love, and you may be calling for love too. Because my call for love isn't always answered with an extension of love. And I don't always extend love when a call for love is being asked of me. And that's just the truth of who we are, who we are. We don't always respond in the way that we say we're planning to, going to, that we think about and all that. You know, we may leave the Zoom room and go out here and be hellacious people. We may go out here and just call for love all over the place. Whoever becomes receptive to the idea of peace, poise, and calm, whoever embodies these divine realities, finds them flowing through him, and he becomes peaceful, poised, and calm. And from the Course, miracles make minds one in God. Your mind is one with God's. The mind belongs to spirit, which God created and which is therefore eternal. The mind, I'm going to repeat that one. The mind belongs to spirit, which God created. So the mind, okay, I'm not gonna do that. Mm-mm. The mind belongs to spirit, which means that it's eternal. The mind belongs to spirit. I would like to hear comments on this one. I have I have my thoughts on this particular passage, and I would like to hear some feedback on this one, if possible. It reads, the mind belongs to spirit, which God created, and which is therefore eternal. Is this saying, someone please, that the mind is eternal? Is that what that says? It says the mind belongs to spirit, which God created, and which is therefore eternal. Yes, Michaela, I see your hand.
Well, I would think that anything that God created is eternal because He's eternal. So therefore, He can't create anything that's not eternal.
Got it. I hear that, and I would be, and I agree with that. I'm looking at the small m mind. I'm being really picky here. That's just something I do. I started studying the Course all by myself for many years before I came to find study groups. So it was just me and words, these symbols of symbols that have a meaning, as much meaning as I give them. Um, is the small m, this is a good place for this conversation. Um, is the small m my thinking mind? The Course teaches that only minds are joined. Got that. And that only minds are joined because we're all coming from the same source. But there are places where it talks about, you know, your mind, my mind, and this mind, and being that mind, and we're not really, you know, really thinking and all this kind of thing, all this. And as I'm saying it, even as I'm saying it, it sounds confusing to me. And I'm so glad that Regis has his hand up. Hey, baby brother.
Hello, sister. How are you?
I'm well and wonderful. How are you?
Just great. So when you ask the question for somebody to chime in on that, um, well, I would say if it's confusing, then it's the ego trying to interpret it, first of all. And then I would say, I would ask the question back, and you don't have to really answer, it's rhetorical. Is there any perfect teaching? Now, how can it's just like wherever you believe the afterlife is, it's just people's philosophy. Have you been there and came back to tell me? So how can somebody say the mind is eternal? Because if you're still in this body, you haven't been out of this body to come back into the body and tell
Yes.
me that when you left the body, the mind is eternal. So um, I wouldn't take that thought too far, me personally. Like I was saying the other day, when I get to those places in the course, I'm like, the course says, forget this course. I see what Lynn taught, like, let the same mind be in you that's in Christ Jesus. But when we start talking about eternity, eternity is now, period.
Yes.
And to try to project and think about eternity in the future, where is the future?
Yeah.
so,
Still there. Yeah. Yeah.
And I trust my future in the hands of God. So I really don't have to care about that. I really don't. And I don't. It's like when we've had these discussions on either Thursday night or Tuesday night uh, about afterlife and how far do you want to go with that? Now I know that uh, there is some peace and comfort in that in terms of when you think about the mind of God and you think about I am love, the ego is always trying to tell us that we are not love. Oh, you said that the wrong way. You shouldn't have said that, or you did that. You shouldn't have done that, and that wasn't love. We still kind of fall into this trap of interpreting what love is, and we try to interpret stuff, and uh, I think that's the ego hamster wheel. When we and so it's written. It's written that you may be reading the small mind is eternal. My question is to whoever wrote that, how do you know? Oh, I know because God told me. That's what we used to do in the church. you know, God told me. So that makes it so. Yeah, but how do you know? Have you been to eternity? Because I thought eternity was now. So what are you really saying? Are you saying the mind is now? Because where is eternity? And I
Yep.
am that I am. I am as God created me, right here, right now, not in the future. So I think when the ego is trying to interpret this, the ego is saying the mind is eternity, and the ego interpretation is always futuristic. Oh, somewhere out there, the mind is eternal. No, I am now. You say I am that I am, you're just saying I am now.
Mhm.
If we take these concepts and we try to intellectualize them, and that intellectualizing always ends up trying to project the idea into some later place, to some futuristic future place. So anyway, that's what I got to say about it. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. And it wasn't until I read that just now that thought, that question even came to me. It wasn't something I didn't look at that earlier. I found the quote. I thought, oh, this works. This sounds good. This fits. Um, and thank you. And I didn't know, we never know what anything is for. So I appreciate this. Hi, Lindy. Talk to me.
Hi, Precious. How are you today? You are
I'm well and
so
wonderful.
You are so lively. But I love this saying, this wonderful thought. I think Sharon put it in the room, and then you kind of elaborated a little bit on it, which gives me the same thought to say. She said, what did Sharon say? Anyway, I can't remember right off the tip of my tongue. But when I think about the mind, I think about a magnet. I say to myself, wow, your mind attracts to whatever it likes to think about or whatever. And I love to think about love. I love to think about peace. I love to think about everybody getting along. So when I found ACIM, it sounds like everybody's on the same mind and they attracted to the same thing. And so I was like, oh, I like this. So then I was listening to Sharon and I said to myself, you know, Lindy, somebody told you a long time ago the mind is like the galaxy. And we hear terms like your mind plays tricks on you and things like that, right? We hear these terms. And so, you know, and the ego say, well, I'm going to keep my mind in check or I'm going to make, oh, I know what Sharon said. Here it come now. Whatever judgment you make, whether it's good or whether it's bad, you're judging that person. And we do that because we want to, our mind is attracted to good people or we think they're good people. Our mind is attracted to those who want to love others and want to keep peace in their mind, in their mind and around their atmosphere. So we attract, our minds are like magnets. We want that in our atmosphere. We want to be a part of that oneness that we all possess. Like she said, this stuff is in us already. And all we have to do is awaken to it. And so what the AC and being new to the course really helped me awaken to, we all are one because of the creator creating his creation. And then, but you know, that's the thought I had on that question when you said, you know, what is this thing? And if I was to put it in any kind of words, all I could say, Zuma, is the mind is like a magnet. I'm gonna get off this mic.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Because only minds are joined. The course teaches that only minds are joined. We all have this individual, you know, as I'm reading from Dr. Holmes, we all have this individual. We no two people are alike, no two in body, in form are alike. That we all have our unique place in the universe of mind, of capital M mind, that each lives in mind. And then comes the quote from the course that God is the mind with which I think. It's workbook lesson 45. I went and found it. So that we all have our place in mind. We all live in mind. We all move in mind. We all have our being in this capital M mind, our own individual way. And yet we can come together or not. I can be sitting over here and you could be sitting over there, and I might have a thought about you and you might have a thought about me, and one of us might call each other or text each other or find each other in the room like, you know what, I was just thinking, because that one mind is still doing what it does. That's the moment that we're not even conscious of the fact that we're engaging with that one mind, and it may happen that way. It just may happen that way. I want to thank Regis for what he said to you know, help my monkey mind to you know, put the little monkey back in its cage and let it be, and let that ego thinking just go. I read a sentence, and all of a sudden, and as often as I say about analyzing, that you can't find the beauty of a rose by taking the petals off. That's exactly what I was doing. Okay, so let me see this word of the sentence. All right, the. What does the mean? Okay, and mine. What does mine mean? Oh, small m. Oh, not a capital M. Oh, eternal. Wait, the mine is eternal. What? Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to leave that alone now, and I'm going to move right on. Appreciate. So, am I sharing? Wait a minute. I want to screen share. I'm not sharing yet. Let's see. Screen share. There we go. Okay, back to this. All right. So I went and found, let me see. Still reading from the course. God created every mind, small m, by communicating his capital M mind to it. So, all right, and I'm going to stop this small m, capital M. If you're in the room with me, then you're seeing what's on the screen. And if you're not, well, then go watch the video. God, God, God created every mind by communicating his mind to it. Which goes back to what Dr. Holmes said. Each has a unique place in the universe of mind. Each lives in mind. Thus establishing, the course continues, thus establishing it forever as a channel for the reception of his mind and will. And it goes right back to what I just said, and it goes back to what Regis said. Same mind. God created every small m mind, establishing it forever as a channel for the reception of the capital M mind and will. Forever. See, if I had just read the next passage that I had pulled from the course, I wouldn't have asked that question, wouldn't have had this discussion, but then you all wouldn't have gotten involved. So see, it all works out. I appreciate it. Not family. God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which we think. All right, moving on. Still in chapter 9 of the Science of Mind text. The chapter called Prayer, the section Prayer is Essential to Happiness. And we're coming originally from the miracle principle number 11, the reminder that that prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the creator, of the created with the creator. Miracles. Prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. All right. Prayer is essential to happiness. And feel free to raise your hands as the urge hits you. Prayer is not an act of overcoming God's reluctance, but should be an active acceptance of his highest willingness. Active, that's italicized. Prayer should be an active acceptance of God's highest willingness. Through prayer, we recognize a spiritual law that has always existed and put ourselves in alignment with it. So the only prayer that, speaking for myself, that I'm praying is, help me to see this differently. Spirit, help me to see this differently. I want to align myself with what's in front of me. If I am letting all things be exactly as they are, then what I need to do is to see this differently. If the way I'm seeing it is a way that I think it shouldn't be, and I'm using the should word here on purpose, I'm stuck in the should house, got myself in the should house. If I'm looking at something and I think it shouldn't be that way, then Spirit, help me to see this differently. That's my prayer. Because the healing is of the mind. In Science of Mind, we have healing. There's nothing to be healed, only the truth to be revealed. There is nothing to be healed. We're doing it to ourselves. There's nothing to be saved, nothing to be saved from, except my own stinking thinking, my own belief that I'm separate from everything and everyone, that I'm separate from the Creator, that I'm separate from life. That I'm taking this breath on my own. Life has nothing to do with this. I know that the God has nothing to do with this. And I'm using life/God. I'm saying the same thing. Life doesn't punish me. God isn't punishing me. It simply is. And when I am seeing things in a way that seem to me as if they are punishing me, then that's when I am putting I am asking to put myself in alignment with it. Through prayer, we recognize a spiritual law that has always existed and put ourselves in alignment with it. These people with their punctuation back then, and it just kills me where I find commas and semicolons. There I go again, taking the petals off the rose. I understand they're putting it there for emphasis, for pause, but as you can see, just from the even word, it's like, why is that underlined there? Why is that there? Anyhow, through prayer, we recognize a spiritual law that has always existed and put ourselves in alignment with it. The law of electricity might have been used by Moses had he understood this law. In other words, electricity was always there. It was always there. And we want to say, oh, light, starting the car, turning on the light for, is good, is good. Oh no, the electricity for the electric chair, that's bad. It's still electricity. It's still electricity. And it's how we're seeing it that makes it good and bad. It is not good and bad. That's the ego's way of seeing things, because the ego lives by comparison. Always. The law of electricity. Okay. Emerson said, is not prayer the study of truth, a sally, which means breakout, of the soul into the unfound infinite? And I'm reading, this is coming out of the Science of Mind textbook. Emerson was one of Dr. Holmes's favorite people, one of the foundational people for that transcendentalist, Emerson, the Judge Thomas Troward, and the mystic, the phenomenal Curtis Hopkins, who always said, "My good is my God, my God is my good," and that was she was famous for that. My good is my God is my good. Prayer is constructive because it enables us to establish closer contact with the fountain of wisdom. Those letters are capitalized, and we are less likely to be influenced by appearances around us, to judge according to appearance. Righteous prayer sets the law of the spirit of life in motion for us. And what that means, basically, to me, I pray and I see the demonstration of my prayers. I see my prayers answered. That happens, and it just continues to remind me that God, life, spirit is listening, that I am one with it, that I do have, that I am responsible for my life. Me, I am. There's nothing outside of me, but I get a chance to see, to be reminded that the law is always saying yes. Life is always saying yes. If you're saying, I can do that, yes. I can't do that, yes. It is done unto us as we believe. And the Course reminds us that what is true for us, we make what's true for us what is true for us. It also says that when we decide to believe what's not true, then what is true disappears. That's a powerful one for me. That what is true disappears. Prayer for me is everything. It really, really is. As a religious science practitioner, our primary purpose is to pray. It is to pray. It is to pray. It is to engage with God, to continually engage with God, to engage, to engage, to engage. Because by doing so, as Dr. Holmes just wrote, it prevents that judging by appearances. Because the second I say spirit, which is my grab hold word, the second spirit, the second it's that to me translates to, let me see this differently. I'm not seeing it through God's eyes. I'm not seeing it through the eyes of peace. I'm not seeing it regardless of the fact the situation might not be peaceful as based on what we call peace, because it's all love, it's all love, it's all love. Um, but I have to be reminded of that, even as I'm seeing it and saying, oh, that shouldn't be that way. Oh, this is terrible. Oops, spirit. Let me see this differently. This is for my highest and my best. This is for my good. All right, Regis, you got it.
Yeah, I was really liking that paragraph, Zuma. I actually screenshotted it. And I'll be sharing that in my at-home Bible study with my wife. So, but it's I think we was talked about this Tuesday, but it's back to that. Yeah, we did. We it's still reinforcing, and I just realized, why is it important? Why is this point important? Because we talked about this point Tuesday also from with a different set of words, but it's back to that point also that. And I just thought, why do we need to know this? Because this is coming up twice. So why do we need to know this? And I got it. I think I got it. For now, I got it. The point that, am I moving God or am I moving me? And see, the Western religion, we all are affected by it because we everywhere we go, we hear people talking about and expressing the idea that through prayer they move God. See, and so we have to acknowledge that, yes, this affects me sometimes. You know, when I just wake up and start my day and things start happening, stuff start popping up, I can easily fall into this idea of thinking I need to get God to move on my behalf. You know? So I'm like, okay, so why is it important for us to know which is happening? Am I moving me or am I moving God with prayer? We know in Western religion, we all of us at some point has been through this dilemma where we think God is not hearing me. I'm not hearing God. God is not hearing me. God is not answering my prayer. Well, when we think subliminally or even on a subconscious level that when I pray, I'm somehow convincing God to move on my behalf or to show me favor or to do whatever, then when nothing happens in the physical circumstance, be it health, be it wealth, be it favor, be it whatever, job promotion, need a job, whatever, need a man, need a woman, don't have one, why can't I get a husband? Why can't I get a wife? So when we don't see any activity in these areas, these various areas, then we move into this place of, God don't answer prayer. God don't hear me. I don't know how to pray. We go into all these self-defeating ideal that I'm moving myself into alignment. My perfect of me having to pay money that I'm expecting to pay came up, uh, and I wanted God to fix it so I wouldn't have to pay the money. you know, and, uh, but in prayer, I aligned with the truth of who I am, which I have the money. I'm prosperous. I'm blessed, and I can pay the money. I can pay the money, and the money won't hurt me. It ain't gonna change what I eat. It ain't gonna change the temperature in my house. I'm not gonna start turning my heat down because I can't afford to pay the heat bill. It ain't gonna change nothing for me to pay the money. I just want to have things my way. So prayer moved me out of the space. It didn't change the situation. I still got to pay the money, but I'm okay. I'm in peace. I'm in perfect peace. Nothing missing, nothing broken. So it is important that we understand what comes first, the chicken or the egg in some situations. And so, am I
Yes.
moving God or am I moving me? Why am I praying? Let's come together and pray. Why? People quick to say, let's pray. Pray for me, brother. Why? Why you want me to pray for you? What do you want to happen when I pray? What is your expectation? So what I got from this today is knowing this allows me to have the proper expectation. And when you have the proper expectation, you won't be disappointed. But if I pray without the proper expectation, thinking God's supposed to get in this physical circumstance, then I can come out of that feeling depressed, feeling rejected, feeling like God loves Zuma more than he loves me. Because God fixed Zuma's situation. And I'm still sitting up here lonely, singing with no dog or nothing. So take it back, Zuma. Thank you.
See, lovable has. Okay. By the way, in case you want to see baby boy, let me get this right. He's right there with one of his toys right there. It's a thing here, and I can't call it TREE because he thinks I'm saying TREAT, and something about the word CHRISTMAS, that holiday. Something about that word does something I don't know. It means something to him, and I don't know what it is. So you can't use that word either. I don't even know what to call that toy. But there he is. He was playing with it, and then he just stopped. Um, that's what he does. But Regis, you make a good point. Am I moving God or is God moving me? It's written that we live in God and that we move in God. It doesn't say God. It's not saying that God is that we are moving God. It says that we move in God, and it made me think of a pot of a stew or something, and you're putting the ingredients in the pot, and you're stirring everything in the pot. The pot isn't moving. The pot isn't moving. Everything in the pot is moving, and the source of how the ingredients are all coming together is based on the pot and that heat, because that heat and that pot then become one, and that's it. But the ingredients in the pot, that's me. That's my thoughts moving in God, moving in that pot, getting hot, getting stimulated and moved to because all the ideas, there's nothing my holy that lesson 38 became a thing for me. I had a good time with um uh an ACIM friend of mine, Melissa. She was here last Monday, and had a chance to go have lunch with her. And we talked about, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. And the course teaches that the sign of holiness is wholeness. So I say, there's nothing my wholeness cannot do because I'm whole. I'm complete. In the religious science, we say perfect, whole, and complete. Those are all synonymous words. Because perfect doesn't mean that, like ducks in a row. It means that everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. Everything about me as I am is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And it's supposed to be unique and different, which I read we read on the last slide. No, in this slide. It's very slide. No, it wasn't the last slide. About being unique. Maybe it wasn't this slide. It doesn't matter. Anyway, um, that we are perfect, whole, and complete. We are complete in ourselves. My wholeness. There's nothing my wholeness cannot do. But when I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Oh, I don't have what I need. Oh, this is a problem. Oh, that thing, that water pipe, that water pipe in the street cracked. This is what's happening right now. I'm waiting for the effect, waiting for this to be repaired. But the water pipe in the street cracked and bent. as a result of the sewer pipe out there, this is a street with numerous homes on it, and it's a pipe way down the street, or, but apparently connected to my home, cracked. And what's supposed to be going out through the sewer line is finding its way in through the tub where my washing machine is. And I sat, walking around in circles. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay, how about make a phone call, Zulma? Well, who do I call? I don't know who to call. How about Google it, Zulma? The workbook lesson 80. The problem is already solved. These are some of my grab hold moments. These are the times when I have to grab hold of these things. And I understand that, the course is it's a course in mind training. It's not saying that, that no, Zoom, it doesn't apply to your sewer pipes. Yes, it does, because it applies to not the sewer pipes themselves, but my thoughts about the sewer pipes, my thoughts about that water coming into that tub. My thoughts about it's a course in mind training. And we forget that. We think, oh, well, in fact, we're talking about, and I think it was you, Regis, that had mentioned, how we pray for a parking spot, and we say the course is not about the parking spot. It's not. It's a course in mind training. It's a course in me understanding. Oh, look, we just came to life. What he's going to turn around. This is what I was doing, going around in circles, and then stopping. Goes in circles and you find another spot. But it's a course in mind training. It's a course in knowing that next week I may have to drive to New York City, to Manhattan. I have a choice to take the bus, but I want to take Lovable with me. And my first thought was, oh, but parking in New York. And I stopped and started laughing. It's a course in mind training. It's a course in understanding that whether I have to go 1 block, no block, or 6 blocks, there is going to be parking for me somewhere. But it's not about the parking spot. It's about me resting my mind and knowing that it's going to be there for me. What's supposed to be there for me is going to be there for me. It's a course in mind training. And for me, it's a course in being calm about the fact that the water pipe burst. It's about finding creative ways to deal with the things that, to prevent things that I don't want coming up into the tub from doing so, finding creative ways. Because God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. I am in prayer. I am in prayer. I am in prayer, and I'm constantly, for the sake of peace, because this is what it's about. The course, the goal of the course is peace. Peace to my mind. Let all my thoughts be still. Stop and remember that the answer is already there. The problem is already solved. There really is no problem. It's me thinking there's a problem. It's a course in mind training. My prayer is to remember that I have to seek first that kingdom, and it's not out there. That kingdom, this God I'm talking about, that I live in, lives in me. I am seeking first the kingdom, and the kingdom is within. And I don't mean, we say within because we think of body within. It's not like it's like right here. It's not here. It's not sitting here where it says Philadelphia Eagles. Or maybe it is. Go Eagles. But that's what this is all about. Prayer is about connecting, reminding myself. It's about engaging. It's about not forgetting. It's about not letting my mind wander. It's about knowing that the problem is solved, that all is well and unfolding the way it's supposed to. Song by Eddie Watkins Jr., All is Well. I'll be singing that next Sunday, Regis, not this one coming. Next Sunday. I'll be singing next Sunday, All is Well. Eddie Watkins Jr. At the center. But that's what it's all about. And Lindy wrote in the chat, this one who is made in the image of Creator, she just satisfied. She just satisfied just being a light in the earth. Yes, we're just satisfied just being. That's it. I'm here to be truly helpful, not only to those people out there, but to myself first. First, I have to, because it's I can't, if I'm not feeling it, I can't teach it. I can't talk it. I can't do the BS about it. I can't. Those days are over when I try to convince you that everything was fine and oh well, yeah, I'm okay, I'm okay. And then just spend my time being miserable. No, when I say you ask me how I'm doing, my answer is always well and wonderful. That's my answer. But I'm not talking about the pipes in the street. I'm not talking about them canceling my Medicare because the Office of Personnel Management was supposed to send the money, but they didn't, so they canceled it. And I can't make a doctor's appointment because I don't have the Medicare. I'm working all that out. I'm not talking about any of those things because there's stuff going on. Life is lifing. Things are happening. And the purpose of the course, the purpose of mental science, period, of all these mental sciences is to, as Dr. Ernest says, to learn how to think. Because to learn how to think is to learn how to live. This is all about thought. It's all about thought. The mind, this is a course in mind training, and they all require attention and study at some level. So for me to just be rambling on like this is not something, needless to say, something that happened overnight. It was always there. The electricity was always there. And Moses didn't know anything about it. The answers have always been there. I just didn't know it. I wasn't aware of it. And sometimes even when I do know it, I don't always grasp at it to the degree that I grasp at it. I am it. And I forget. I forget. I forget. And my darling Dove writes, reminding us, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. Don't take yourself so seriously. Get yourself out. Get your, Emerson says, get your bloated nothingness out of the way. Out of the way. Laughter helps us to think. Yes, thank you for that. Lindy, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Oh, Zuma, I heard you say you was trying to come to New York. Well, I'm going to text you my phone number so I can show you my hospitality, girl. If you decide you want to come and visit me, okay?
All right, you can put it right here in the chat, right in here, and only the people that are in here will see it. I appreciate that. Thank you. What
You
part of New York?
welcome.
Where are you? Where?
You welcome, beloved. You are such a little spirit in the earth. You really are. I
Oh,
like your spirit.
we all are. Thank you. It's all one spirit. I'm glad to say that. I'm just expressing it in my unique way. What part of New York, Lindy?
Queens.
Are you in Queens? I have a nephew in Queens. Okay, but yeah, put your information right here in this chat in this room. I appreciate that.
Okay, and I
Um,
just wanted to say one thing.
yes.
You know, when we judge one another, we also judge ourselves. And I'm my hardest critic, I'm my hardest judge. I would say, Linda, you know, uh uh ain't nobody harder on you but you the hardest critic on yourself or the hardest judge because nobody judges me like I judge myself.
Right.
And sometimes I'm just way too hard on myself and I owe that to the ego. I really do. And this lesson, the ACM courses or the ACM lessons are helping me see that. And I appreciate this group that I have joined. Thank you for sharing today, Zuma.
The only reason why we choose to be hard on ourselves is because we forget that our worth is not established by our own self. The course says resign as your own teacher. You have taught yourself wrongly. We have taught ourselves that we're not this and we're not that, but we learned that from someplace else. I mentioned this the other day. I'll put my information in the chat. Lindy, do me a favor. Send me a text message with your name in it. That's all I'm asking. I put my information in the chat for you. Anybody else who wants it. Anyway, we have been taught that we weren't this and we weren't that, and somebody compared us to somebody else when we were little. It started when we were children for most of us, and then we took it on, and we took that misinformation on as truth, and and then we start doing it to ourselves. And of course, I can't judge you unless I'm judging my, okay, the word starts with I. That sentence starts with I. The judgment is coming from me. What I'm judging out there is coming from me. And I use the expression of blue tinted glasses. I say, all right, so let's say, I wear blue tinted glasses and I'm looking at everything as blue. Well, yeah, because they're my blue tinted glasses. It's up to me to decide that it's not about the things out there. The course teaches us that we are never upset for the reason we think. I'm never upset for the reason that I think. I'm never upset because of something out there. I'm always upset because of something that I am thinking. I'm not upset about the thing. I'm upset about what I think about the thing. And that includes myself. If I'm thinking that I'm not this and I'm not that, and I'm comparing myself to somebody else, the ego lives by comparison. Now, mind you, the ego is not real. Let's go there. It's not real. This ego that we're talking about, it's not real. It's the Cujo of Stephen King's the movie, the book, Cujo, that dog. He's not real. It's the boogeyman. It's not real, but yet we make it real, and then everything that goes with it. The course says to deceive yourself no longer in the think that you're being unfairly treated, or that something is wrong, or that you're not this and you're not that, and the effects will disappear. They will disappear. And Dove wrote in the chat, the only part of myself that judges is ego. Ego is always judging itself and other egos. And the thing is, it's all made up stuff. It's just stories being made up. Let's see. I see that person is wearing yellow polka dots and purple stripes, and my reason for them doing that is I'm making up a story. I do it to myself, about myself. I'm making up a story. I'm saving the chat, so I'll have the information, and I'll get it right after. Okay, thank you. And that's right. What other people say, what other people think, what other people do is not my business. That's all ego. That's all ego based. What you think is not my business. What I think is, and I have to pay attention to my thoughts, because I have to look and ask myself, where are these thoughts coming from? If I'm thinking that I'm not whatever, I'm being a critic, I'm criticizing myself. Where did this originate? Or am I making it up? Or did somebody tell me that? Did the teacher in third grade, did she I had a great teacher in third grade, but did the teacher in sixth grade did one of my teachers tell me that I wasn't as that why can't I get grades like that other person? Or how did you get that wrong? I mean, that kind of thing. Those subtleties, we have to know. You have to look at where it's coming from so that you can let it go. Miracle principle number 7 says that miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. You got to get rid of the junk. You have to get rid of the junk. Clean it out, clean it out, clean it out, so that what, as Zig Ziglar called it, the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and the positive can come on in. But you gotta clear the stuff out. That's the doing principle. Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. I have to decide. Emmett Fox says, change your mind and keep it changed. I have to decide that I am as God created me, that I am not this body, that I am spirit. That's the starting point. I am spirit. Spirit. I am eternally spirit. That is my eternal reality. Spirit. I am given this body, this vessel, this communication device. It's different. It's unique than anyone else, but there are your thumbprints are different. And your right thumbprint doesn't tell your left thumbprint, oh, something's wrong with you because you don't have as many circles as I do. On the body, everything is different. Go look in the mirror. Your eyes are not perfectly set. Your feet, when you put on a pair of shoes, one fits a little bit more snug than the other. That's just the way it is. And that doesn't take away from perfection. It's a perfect left foot. It's a perfect right foot. It's a perfect left eye. It's a perfect right eye. It's a perfect left thumbprint. It's a perfect right thumbprint. It is exactly the way it's supposed to be, because that's the way it is. This is what this is it. This is it. And I am to take care of the left one and the right one. I'm to take care of it. I am to bathe it and brush the teeth on it and deodorize it and whatever else needs to be done. And it's all the way it's supposed to be. Not to look at it and compare it to somebody else's because I'm 5 feet tall. Oh man, I sure wish. And I was that person that used to always wear the heels with the platforms. I was, from that era. Used to wear the platform heels because I wanted to be tall, and that cost me. My feet aren't happy about that. At least one of them. But I finally decided that it was okay to be 5 feet tall. Something as simple as that. Something as simple as that. That I thought myself as less than because I was short. Or anything or anything, because I can't use certain hair products. I have to use others. But then when I discovered the ones that work for me, then I don't care about the other hair products. Or because that comparison, always the ego, the unreal ego lives by comparison, because the ego is telling you that this blade of grass and that blade of grass is supposed to be the same. The ego is telling you that this thumbprint and that thumbprint should be the same. The ego is telling you that you should be as something as someone else. So yeah, we're judging ourselves based on something that somebody told us, but let the Holy Spirit be the judge. Let the Holy Spirit judges rightly. The Holy Spirit can only tell you the truth. The Holy Spirit, that part of our mind, that thought system, compared to the ego thought system, is the only real thought system, because only what's true is true. And everything else is just something that we're making up. Something that we're making up. And Dove wrote, "In your gentle laughter, judgment fades away." Yes, absolutely. There's nothing to judge. And in the manual for teachers, I believe it's section number 12, I think, it talks about judgment. And the question is asked, how can we judge anything rightly? Can we really judge anything rightly? So in order to judge something rightly, you have to know the past of it, the present of it, and the future of it. You have to know the tomorrow of it in order to judge it rightly. And no one is arrogant. No one can be arrogant enough to say that they know that. We don't know. So and we don't. And if we realize that the things that we think about ourselves, they change. They constantly change. I went from thinking, I can't do anything with my hair, to finally thinking I can do something with my hair. Using it for example. It doesn't, it constantly changes. But God is unchanging. God is unchanging. God is unchanging. All right, Lindy, I'm glad you were here. Thank you. And I'll be in touch today. Love you too. All right. All right. We still have a little bit of time left. I'm going to see if we can continue with this section at least. We can finish this up. All right. We read this part. And the prayer is constructive. Prayer is always constructive. We're clear on that. Prayer is constructive. It's not happening from here. Prayer is constructive. Yes. All right. And we're not moving God. We move in God. We move in God. We move in mind. That's written first in the Bible. It's written. Ernest Holmes says it, and the Course in Miracles teaches. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. This is that basic truth that we move in life. We live in life. We have life. We are life. Being and having are the same. I am life. I have life. I share life. I'm grateful for life. And knowing that you too are life reminds me that we are one. Susan Michelle calls it source energy. Source energy. Source energy. All right. Prayer is essential. not to the salvation of the soul, for the soul is never lost. We know that. There's nothing to be saved. There's nothing to be saved, but to the conscious well-being of the soul that does not understand itself. In other words, as we know that the time will come when miracles and forgiveness and all these thought systems and prayer won't be necessary. Won't be necessary because we pray to remind ourselves to remind ourselves of that which we forget. So prayer is essential to the conscious well-being of the soul that does not understand itself. There is vitality in our communion with the infinite, the habit of engaging, which is productive of the highest good. As fire warms the body, as food strengthens us, as sunshine raises our spirits, so there is a subtle transfusion. I love that word. There is a subtle transfusion of some invisible force in such communion, weaving itself into the very warp and woof of our own mentalities. This conscious commingling of our thought with spirit is essential to to the well-being of every part of us. I'm going to go back and read that again. Because I didn't outright read this when I was putting it on the slide. I said, oh, so we'll unpack together. Prayer is essential. Okay, we got that. There is vitality in our communion with the infinite. And again, that's engaging, which is productive of the highest good. As fire warms the body, as food strengthens us, as sunshine raises our spirits, so there is a subtle transfusion of some invisible force in our communion. There is a subtle transfusion of some invisible force in our such communion. And we know that force is God, weaving itself into all of our mentalities. That's the oneness. That is the oneness. That is the oneness, that one source. And it's subtle because it could be something as simple as I thought about something, or and then that something shows up, or I come online and somebody says, "Oh, Zulma, I was just thinking about you. I was just talking about you," or we just played your whatever. Just it's the connection that it's so subtle that sometimes we don't even realize it. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we take it for granted, and ultimately we that would be great if we took it for granted. We wouldn't have to pray. This conscious commingling, that's an interesting word. I have to find out what that's supposed to mean, of our thought. This conscious uniting of our thought with spirit is essential to the well-being of every part of us. In other words, the sonship. I have to realize that I am one with you, that you are one with me, that we are one in one another. There's a song called "Make Us One." It was by Philip Bailey. Philip Bailey of the song group Earth, Wind and Fire, called "Make Us One." And there's a line in there. He says, "Make us one in one another, one with thee. Make the love so strong between us that the world will clearly see that however great the problem, we soon will overcome, because we're anchored in the Father and walking in the Son. Make us one in one another, one with thee. Help us feel each other's feelings and share each other's needs. Then our lives will share the witness of Jesus glorified." Okay, this is a traditional Christian song. And the world will know you sent them, and he gives eternal life. Make us one. Make us one heart, one mind, one. Our hope is in you. Oh, okay. Anyway, make us one. This conscious joining of our thought with spirit is essential to the well-being of every part of us. And let's see if I can get this last paragraph in, if we can, or maybe not, but I'll try. Prayer, I'm going to read it. Prayer has stimulated countless millions of people to higher thoughts and nobler deeds. That which tends to connect our minds with the universal mind, lets in a flood of its consciousness. If we think of God as a heavenly dictator, something apart from that which lives and moves and has its being where we are, then we are certain to believe ourselves disconnected from this infinite presence. And the inevitable consequence of such thinking would be a terrible fear that we should never be able to make contact with him, which of course is saying, what we already know, that the sense of separation is the only lack we need correct. The sense of separation is the only problem. The sense of separation, and it's not saying the separation. It's that sense of separation, as Regis mentioned earlier. Who's moving? God doesn't move. Life is lifing. Life is going to continue to be right there. Life is, it's like that, like the lighthouse that Carrie has up there. The lighthouse isn't moving. The oncoming ship had better decide it's going to go another way, because it's not moving. God is not a heavenly dictator, pushing, and it's written in the Course that the voice of the Course says that it can't take away our fear, because that would be interfering with the basic law of cause and effect. The basic law of cause and effect. So no, there are no dictators. There's nothing telling us what we should do. Nothing is out there shooting on me. So the question is, why am I out here trying to should on it? Not in my best interest at all. So if that's the case, according to this, then we are certain to believe we're certain to believe ourselves disconnected from this infinite presence. And the inevitable consequence of such thinking would be a terrible fear that we should never be able to make contact with him. But if we know God as an indwelling presence, our prayer is naturally addressed to this presence in us. Our prayer is naturally addressed to this presence in us. We're not praying to something outside of us. So when we're looking at that miracle principle, that prayer is a way of communicating with God. We're not communicating with something outside of us. In the Bible, it's written, don't go stand out in the squares and pray out loud so that you can be heard. No, go in your closet, go in, because that's where it is. Seek first the kingdom. That kingdom is within. We long for and need a conscious union with the infinite. This is as necessary to the nature and intellect of man as food is to the well-being of his physical body. And that concludes the section on prayer in the Science of Mind text, and that chapter on prayer, chapter 9. I think that's the whole thing. I'm pretty sure it is. That's as far as I'm going with it. And thank you, McKaylee, and thank you, Dove, and thank you, Regis, and thank you, Sharon, and thanks to Lindy, who's already left, for being here with me today and for sharing in the talk. Regis wrote again, if you feel separate from God, who moved? Nope. It's never me. And with that, Lynn, I am turning over the mic.
Thank you.